Hey, everybody. My name is Bethany, and I'm the creative pixie. And today, we're going to be doing fairy related things. Hello, everybody. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, if not, welcome back. I have noticed that my subscribers have been growing ever so slightly, and I want to say thank you so much. I love each and every one of you guys. I hope to continue to grow this community into a positive place for everybody who loves fantasy and fairy like related things. Today, I want to introduce you to a character of mine that's like really special to me. She's really close to my heart. She was one of the first characters I've created, if not the very first. And she, of course, was heavily fairy inspired. But let's see how I twisted her then and what I'm turning her into now and what the project I'm working on is. Let's go ahead and get into it. So many years ago, about 14-ish years, I would say. Yeah, 14. My son is 14. All this happened around the time he was born. I was a 17-year-old baby pixie sitting in her bedroom, scrolling on this new site that my younger sister had just introduced me to called DeviantArt. Of course, DeviantArt had been around much longer than I had known about it, but I was new. She found it before I did. I am scrolling and browsing and just looking, not really expecting much. She was a huge Sonic fan, so she was making a bunch of Sonic characters and everything. That's all I thought about DeviantArt. I had no idea what I was actually in store for. As I was exploring, I found what was basically gold to me. I found a Young Justice group. If you don't know what Young Justice is, it's an amazing show that I think is on HBO Max now, or was it called Max now. It's deep and has a beautiful story, and I absolutely love it. And it was my absolute favorite thing at the time. And when I found these groups on DeviantArt, I was ecstatic. You couldn't tell me anything. All these new people, all these artists, all these people who make characters. And for me, that was a big deal because where I grew up, me and my younger sister were the only two people I knew that were writers in essence, that drew and made characters. So having this online community of other people who make characters about a fandom that I was crazy passionate about, oh my gosh, you couldn't tell 17-year-old me nothing. So I dived in head first. That became my hyper focus for a hot while. And that is where I made Yosei. Yosei was my very first character that I've ever created, and she was an absolute self-insert. She was me if I could have the powers and storyline that I wanted in the DC universe. And at the time, I didn't know any better, but I absolutely loved this character that I created that had Batman as a mentor and elemental powers, and Robin as his little brother, Dick Grayson Robin as a little brother. And I created a story to go along with this character. Her name was Yosei Wayne. She tapped into these powers when she was about 7, 8 years old due to the Joker kidnapping her adoptive mother at the time. She's never knew her biological parents, and basically murdering her. And that triggered something in her, and this causes her to awaken these powers where she goes after the Joker. But in the midst of it, Batman comes and he already takes out the Joker, but he sees her wielding these elements and everything. And when she realizes that the Joker is caught, she basically breaks down like the 7-year-old girl that she is, and she's afraid that she's in trouble. But Commissioner Gordon takes her away, and she is basically sitting at the police office not knowing what's going to happen to her. And that's when Alfred comes and he's like, "You're going to come with me. I have somewhere for you to go." And that's when she gets into the car and she meets Bruce Wayne, who she doesn't find out is Batman for some years later, after Robin actually ends up accidentally spilling the beans while they're having a back and forth go at each other. And that is the backstory to the original form of Yosei. Along with Yosei, I created two other characters named Emmerich and Ulrich. And the three of them were involved in a long time curse that basically involved like reincarnation, and it was heavily inspired by Norse mythology. But beyond her background and the general premise of their story, like the very beginning, there's actually still the first two or three chapters posted on my old DeviantArt. But aside from those little bits and pieces, that is as far as I was able to get with it. As being a teen mom, mom duties kind of came, of course, first, and I had other things to take care of. I was still finishing high school, so I wasn't able to keep up with it, and the story eventually just kind of fell to the wayside. Fast forward a couple of years, I am somewhere in my mid-ish 20s, and I am heavily into Amino now. I am role playing on a regular basis. I actually started role playing back when I was on DeviantArt with Yosei and other characters that I created, but I have now moved on to Amino, and I am in the LRA community, which is short for like the literate role play Amino. I believe that's what it was called. And that was basically just the style of roleplay that I did. It was basically long form paragraphs, decent punctuation and grammar, and those things like that. And they had a contest one year around New Year's, and it was called New Year, New Me. And it was basically for people who had old characters, and they were like, how about you revamp an old character? And here are the prizes for those who do it the best. I was definitely for it. I was like, you know what? Sure, why not? I have Yosei. I haven't touched her in years at this point. Let's go ahead and redo her. This is where the version Faith Cleo Duvall was created. She was now biracial, Hispanic, French, Creole mix. She had her powers stripped from her, basically, not in story, but I basically took away the aspect of her having powers just because a lot of the role plays I was doing at the time didn't need her to have them. It wasn't really a big deal. She also was a fashion student, and her personality took a bit of a more intense, I would say, change. Whereas when in Yosei, she was bubbly and she was very emotional just because she was like a young teenager. Whereas Faith was a little bit older, she had a little bit more of a head on her shoulders, but Faith also had stuff going on with her with a fire-based trauma, and those things would creep back on her. She also had very bad impulse control. She didn't like not being in charge, and she would also butt heads with authority a whole lot. So those were little differences that I made in order to basically take her away from being such a self-insert and making her her own person. However, I didn't really use Faith a lot either. So after winning that contest that they had, I didn't really get to use her much. I didn't get to use her in RP much or roleplay much. She just kind of also, you know, faded to the wayside. Between this current version and Faith, I also made another version of her where I named her Yosei, which was a combination of the first two names. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do with her. I think I had the idea at the time of making a webtoon using her as the main character, but unfortunately, because of mom duties and my first marriage and just a whole lot of life stuff taking over, I wasn't really able to do anything with it. So Yosei never really got to come to light at all. So at some point last year, I was working on another project that I have because ADHD keeps me busy. I was working on this project, and I was having all the trouble in the world. As much as I love my other project, it was giving me such a hard time, and I wasn't able to like connect with the characters or figure out some of the lore that I wanted to, and it was just bothering me to no end and giving me headaches and not making it a fun experience. So I was talking to my husband. I'm like, babe, this is giving me all these issues. And lately I've been thinking about the story I made when I was younger. And he's like, oh, really? Well, why don't you take a break from making All Is Love and War, or Love and Wars, which is the other title of the other novel that I'm working on. He's like, take a break from it, play it around with the other characters that you've created in the past, and see what you want to do with them. So, of course, I take his advice, and I'm working around with formerly Faith and Yosei, and I'm looking to see if I want to rename her, what do I want to do with her, how do I want to change her, and it all just kind of braided together into this new story where I changed her from Yosei, where I changed her from Faith, and I changed her into Moira. This brings us to our current version that I now have renamed Moira. Moira is going to be my female lead in my work in progress novel called Fae, Beast, and Blade. In Fae, Beast, and Blade, I have kept the original basis of the story of the reincarnation and the curse. I've kept some of the Norse mythology elements to it that I like, and went around and gathered other elements of mythologies that I absolutely love and hold dear to my heart, and created this new story that not only has to do with the curse and the reincarnation, but identity issues and all those juicy social aspects that come with being different in one way, shape, or form. Moira is our female lead. She is a Fae. She is a refugee. Well, she was a refugee before she was adopted by a high noble in the neighboring kingdom, where she faces different types of discrimination. She faces discrimination in the high society, but she also faces some kind of off-putting discrimination from other Fae, because most of the other Fae, actually all of the other Fae, out or typically commoners or not nobles. Basically, she outranks all of the other Fae in the kingdom, so they treat her more as a noble than they would other Fae folk within the kingdom. So Moira is basically caught between these two worlds of belonging to one but not really belonging. She belongs in one way, shape, or form, but isn't quite accepted. So when it comes to the nobles, she is constantly trying to prove herself in one way, shape, or form, while also not overstepping or not becoming what they see as a stereotype. When it comes to the design of Moira, her physical design, I really wanted it to embody what I think I was really trying to make her the very first time around. I really wanted her to have that fairy essence without obviously being a fairy, but this time around I went full force and made her the fae that I wanted her to be. She has these beautiful purple wings, and all of these little aspects are clues and details to who she is in the story. I can't give that away right now, of course, but these little nods and these little differences in the wings, like typically Fae have wings based off of the element they are attuned to, whereas she doesn't have wings the typical color. So that also kind of lets other Fae know that she's not the typical Fae. She does have fire-based powers. I kind of leaned into that versus making her afraid of it like I did in her first two incarnations. She has these fire powers, but she is still kind of wary on using them, just because all the other Fae are wary of her having them to begin with. Another big aspect of her design is clearly she is a black presenting character, and I really, really wanted that because there isn't enough African American or just black or people of color in fantasy, there's always very Eurocentric fantasy characters and Eurocentric inspired characters. And even though I've pulled some from North mythology originally, I've also went and pulled from Yoruba mythology. I've also pulled from Polynesian mythology, and I've also pulled from all these other different indigenous mythologies to create this new story. That way I can bring those things more to the forefront. And at the time of recording this, it's just about the 1st of May. And if you know anything about the 1st of May, I always say that May is when the Fae come out to play. That is the season of Beltane, which is a Celtic seasonal or Celtic Wiccan celebration. It's a fire festival. It is a time where the veil is thinned, and be careful because the Fae come out to, mess around, and they might just snatch you up, and you don't know what happens if they do. But it is also the season for Black Fae Day. Black Fae Day was a special holiday created by Jasmine Lafleur. You can find her on Instagram and on Facebook. I have spoken with her and worked with her before. She is an amazing person. She created Black Fae Day some years ago to raise awareness of African Americans and Blacks and other people of color who love fantasy. And we take the second Saturday in the month of May and we dress up and we frolic like the Fae and the fantasy creatures that we have loved since childhood, however, have never seen ourselves in the media as such. So that's another reason why I took this time specifically to show Moira, to show that I want to contribute just something to that cause, not only to that cause, but to the grander cause of bringing more Black presenting and African American presenting characters to light. Fae, Beast, and Blade, as well as All's Fair and Love and War, are both really early on in the process. I am still working on draft 0 and 1 simultaneously with both of them. I am still creating characters, lore, world building, magic systems, all of the above when it comes to all the things that comes to making a novel. If you guys want to know more about either of these worlds, let me know down in the comment section. I've already been thinking about tossing the idea around of posting more of the writing and the creating side when it comes to writing and world building and novel crafting and things like that. So let me know what you guys think and if you guys are interested in that side of things. When it comes to All's Fair and Love and War, that one is also a fantasy epic that has political themes and romance and all that fun stuff. So I would be excited to share my characters for that as well. And that is all I have for you today, guys. Thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with me. I really appreciate it. I am so glad I was able to share this new and improved and updated version of who was formerly known as Yosei and who is now known as Moira, my main character in Fae, Beast, and Blade. Tell me if you guys are excited or not. I want to know. I want to hear your feedback. I want to know what you think about her. Talk to me in the comment section. And until the next time, mwah. Love you guys. Bye.